Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drains. Today we are working on a garage footer tile, and I'm actually in the neighbor's yard to show you what's going on here. There's a tremendous amount of construction here. A lot of people buy those small salt box homes, they tear them down, and they build these 5,000 square foot homes. Up here at the top of the hill, you can see they're going to do some grading here, but this lot comes this direction. They bring in the water out here, and you can see the erosion. It just pours down through here. New home here, another home behind me as well. And you can see this water just runs down through here like a river every time it rains. What it's doing, of course, is hitting this garage. And the garage is underwater when it rains. You can see the mud. The builder has put up a silt fabric and straw to try to stop some of the water, but of course it's doing nothing. And what we've got to do is dig down along this footer, put gravel perforated pipe. We're going to bring that to grade to help capture that water, and then it's going to come around here to the back, and it's actually going to discharge. You can see the homeowner tried to do something himself, but it's going to go around the house over to the other fence, where we're going to put a sump pump, and a good half horsepower pump, pumps about 80 to 100 gallons a minute, collect all this water and try to send it out to the street. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So all that water that comes from where I showed you, the neighbors way at the top of the hill, it's all going to be collected on that side of the house with catch basins, French drain, and footer tile, and then it's going to get piped around to here. We're using a half horsepower pump. We're going to run a 2-inch discharge, and it's going to go out to the front, under that fence, and go all the way out to the front. So the question is, will this work? Well, that pump will pump 80 gallons a minute. That's, a couple of trash cans full of water every minute. My answer to that question is, you can never beat Mother Nature. It will keep up with average rainfalls, but during a 4 or a 5-inch rainfall in 30 minutes, well, no matter what size pipe you put out here, it's going to flood. But right now that water has no place to go, so it won't stay here. It should only stand for an hour at that, if that, and that pump will pump it out of here. So that's the solution that we're coming up with, and I've done hundreds of these. They seem to work pretty good. Okay, so today we're installing a Liberty pump, and this is a model 287. It's a half horsepower, and this thing's really powerful. It's heavy too. It's got a nice float system. As water rises in the pit, kicks on the switch, pump kicks on, and we'll send it out. The reason that we're using this half horsepower is because, remember, we're picking up all this water that we're bringing down through that trench from that hill and the garage and several catch basins. You can kind of see the grade of just his yard. We're going to put another catch basin there. A lot of water coming down here, and then it's going to get pumped out all the way out to the street. So this Liberty model 287, again, half horsepower pump, and it's still 110 volt, which is the good part about that. Sets up the same way as any other good pump. We're going to start with a male threaded 1.5 inch adapter. This screws right into the port. This has an 1.5 inch discharge, and once it comes up out of the pit, we're going to enlarge that right away to 2 inch. So you screw that adapter into the port. Next, you're going to have a piece of PVC that we've already cut. This is to support the riser where we're going to put our check valve. So let's go ahead and glue that in place. Put a little bit of primer on the air, and your glue, remember that you want to put that on there while it's wet. You can put it on while it's dry too, but it definitely gets stickier and tackier quicker when it's wet. Push it in and hold it just for a couple of seconds, and that's going to set up real tight. Next, we're going to put our check valve on. And remember that a check valve only allows water to flow one direction. We're pumping almost 150 feet uphill, about 1.5 to 2 feet. We don't want that water to come back, each time the pump kicks on, we don't want that water to come back in the pit. We want the pump to take it out. So there's a little arrow, if you can see it. You see that arrow? That tells you direction of flow. So we want to make sure that we set that pointing upwards. The check valve is held together with stainless steel no-hub clamps. We're going to use a 5/16 inch nut driver to tighten them down on there. There's actually a little slot that this band sits on. Just got to get it in place, and then you can tighten it up. Just as tight as your drill can make it. I've already tightened this top one. Now I've cut another piece, a small insert, because our 90 is going to sit on there. We're actually coming out of the side of the pit. So we want to make sure that we have the pieces already cut. Again, stainless steel no hub. Pop it in. Make sure you get to the bottom of that coupling. Slide your no hub on. Tighten it up. Nice and tight. Now before we put our 90 on there, I'm going to set the pump back in because we need to come out the side of that pit. So let's set it back in the sump basin. So let's set the pump back into the sump basin. Remember, that pump's a little bit heavy, so bear with me. Now we're going to stick our 90 on here, and we're going to drill a hole through, a 2-inch hole for the 1.5 inch pipe right through the side of the basin. Okay, so I've got the pipe laid in our trench, so this is the direction that it's coming out. So I'm going to go ahead and start drilling the hole right here with my handy dandy Black & Decker 20-volt drill. This is a 2-inch hole saw, and we just want to cut right through it. That hole is the exact outer diameter of our 1.5 inch pipe. Okay, so I've got everything secured to this point right here. Next we're going to glue our 90 on there, so let's do that. We'll start by putting some primer, if you have it available. You don't have to use that, but a lot of people like it. On this application I definitely like it. This is a very powerful pump. It does create about 30 pounds of pressure, so we need that. Need some glue on our 90. We're going to stick this in place. Just push and hold. Perfect. Next, we're going to go ahead and slide our 1.5 inch pipe through the hole, and you can see it lines up just perfectly. And then it's going to come out and it's going to change to 2-inch right there, and then it's going to run all the way out to the street. So again, let's prime this up, glue it up. Perfect. Get our glue on place. Prime it up, glue it up, and then we're just going to slide it through and stick it together. Let that set up for a second, and we've got this ready to go. So next, we're going to go ahead and put our inlet line in. You can see here's the inlet, and here's the inlet pipe. We're going to slide that right through this hole. First, we have to make a little slice in this pipe. We do that with the hacksaw. Just a little slice. We're going to squeeze it together. We're going to squeeze it together and then slide it right inside that hole. It actually expands once it comes inside and makes a really tight fitting. So that's really about it on this installation of the sump pump. Again, this is a Liberty Model 287, a great pump, 80 gallons a minute. That's a couple of trash cans every minute this pump puts out, even on a 2-foot head, which is the rise from the bottom of the pump. It's actually a 3-foot head. Comes up and it's going to go up about a foot all the way out to the street. So we just installed a Liberty. This is a effluent pump, which means that it can pick up 3/4 inch solids. If little rocks drop in there, it'll be able to pick those up and suck them right out through that line. The impeller is that strong. It also pumps about 80 gallons a minute. This has 8 amps when it runs, but it takes quite a bit to start it. It takes almost 20 amps to start. So you're going to need to have at least a 20 amp breaker installed. It comes with a 10-foot cord, and it's 110 volt. We're going to leave an extension cord here for the homeowner, and he'll have to have an electrician come out. Basically, we're all done with that. We're going to go ahead and snap our lid in place and cover it up. Okay, so you can see our inlet line comes into the sump basin. And then we've got an outlet that has an 1.5 inch discharge port, so we switch immediately to 2 inch, and this 2 inch, all coupled together, glued together, runs all the way out to the street. Putting in a French drain, a lot of catch basins. We're also going to be waterproofing a garage, and this is a monolithic slab on this garage over here. Basically, it's just like a Florida home. It has just a 4-inch pour of concrete, and then they built from that up. But water's been penetrating down underneath of that. So what we need to do, you can see all the water here, is we're going to put gravel perforated pipe along this side and the back side. Of course, we'll clean off here where we were digging, so chopping roots and things. Same thing on this side. Line will come down and around those flower beds. It's also going to go this direction around, pick up a downspout, and if you can see it, way past the end of the van out there, all the way out to the street. Great gravity. This has got, I don't know, 6 or 7 feet of fall to come down through there, so should work really good. This is a project that you could do yourself, and it's not that it's easy, but it's not hard. You just have to stay with it and believe you can do it. You just have to stay with it and believe you can do it. If you can look at this yard, you'll see I'm walking to the corner here, and you'll see it's got real good gravity fall coming down. And what's happened is, you can see over here where Chuck's digging, the water just piles up on that patio. There used to be a big oak tree here, so they took that down, and we have to dig through that. Hopefully they ground out enough of the stump that we can get through there. Digging in the mud and roots, this is the hardest part of any job. But you can see the shovel cuts right through them. Once you start to understand how a root cuts, shovels cut right through. You don't need an axe for the most part. You can see that water already starting to flow through the trench. We're actually starting clear over there on the side because the neighbors are higher. Catch basin, pick up the downspout. You can see the areas of water in the yard. We'll pick those up as well. So from that side of the yard and this side of the garage, we're bringing that water around. A lot of catch basins, some gravel perforated pipeway. We may use the styrofoam peanut, the easy flow, some of that in the yard as well. That's going to come through, and we've got to get it on the other side of the driveway. So we went ahead and cut the walk, or the driveway, and we'll pop off that asphalt, and then we'll trench all the way out there to the street. We're also going to pick up the back of that garage and bring that line down here. Okay, so we've got the bulk of our trench done. You can see it already filled up with water. We're going to hook up this downspout as well over here. It'll come down into our trench. Comes around the corner here. There's a gas line that we had to cross over, and a couple of little feeds out to pick up sections of the yard. Another one here. Main line comes around this patio. Kind of muddy here, so hang in there. You can see we've got already got a flow of water coming through here. Comes all the way out. Last little section to connect between that fence and the driveway, and then it'll turn and go all the way out to the street. Put another feed in here coming from the garage side. We're going to put gravel perforated pipe here along the garage, and that'll come down. You can see the water flowing already. It just pours down through there, so it's going to work really good. Pretty wet out here to be digging. Here on the back side, same thing. Gravel perforated pipe comes around, pick up the downspout, turns, and it runs all the way out to the street. On a project this size, there's almost 400 feet of pipe here, plus the gravel perforated pipe around the garage, cutting the sidewalks, cutting the drives. It's best to do this, if you're doing it yourself, do this in small sections. So in other words, make it 3 jobs instead of 1. And it's really nice if you draw yourself up a plan of where you want to install. It may change as you actually start to dig and excavate, but that plan will really help you understand what areas need to be addressed. So here I've got a crew of 4 guys. I'm cutting the sidewalk. We're going to do that first. We try to get some of the harder things done first. And again, I say it's hard, but really it's quite simple to do most of the work here. Remember, we're putting a 4-inch PVC pipe, so we just need to be wide enough to get that pipe through there. It's okay if your trench isn't perfectly straight. That's pretty acceptable. We're going to put concrete back here instead of asphalt. So always remember, after you use your concrete saw, to rinse your area off, because what happens is that diamond blade, it brings up real fine concrete liquid, almost like a mortar, and it'll stain your concrete. Even though this is an old sidewalk, it's nice to rinse it off, just to make sure that no concrete sets up after you're done. Remember, we're going to pull this piece out, replace it. And the same thing over here, whether it be concrete or asphalt, always rinse it off, just to make sure nothing sticks. You can see the fine powder. See that little powdery stuff? There may actually be an old cement drive under here. I hope not. We're going to find out as we break it off. But always rinse it off first. So even on the asphalt drive, basically it's the same as concrete. You can see how weak that is. You just tap it with your pry bar, cut it, and it'll pop right out of there. Once you get a crack, move on to that crack, and then just pry it up. Another person lifts it up and takes it out. What we want to see though is if there's any concrete underneath of here, because there might be. And usually there's not on an asphalt drive, but in an older home, you just never know. I see a lot of gravel, that's pretty normal. But you can see how easy that cracks. It's just like the concrete. So we're going to pop all this off all the way across, remove it, and then we'll trench down through it. So on this particular concrete walk, you can see, go ahead, see the extra concrete. It's like an overpour. What they did, see how finished this is? They poured another concrete walk over top of the original one. So one of the things that you should do also, if you don't think about it, is pull up your plants that you want to keep. Remember, our line is starting back there in the back of the garage where we're putting our French drain. We're going to parge that wall, the monolithic slab, because water's been coming through and rotting the sill plate of the garage. So we're going to bring that water down through here. And so what we need to do is we need to pull up these plants for her. We saw some bulbs. We'll pick up the bulbs as well, and she can put them back after we're all done. And you know, when it's muddy like this, you can, if you've rented a trencher, good luck, because luckily this is very downhill, and hopefully the trencher can pull through that mud without just spinning the tires. You can see my trailer tire, just where we tried to pull into the driveway, it is so wet that it just gets stuck. Probably suggest that you do this on a much drier day, but you know, we're a company and we have other jobs waiting, so we just work all the time. Anyways, I'm going to pull up this hawthorn, and Then we'll be ready to trench down through. Okay, so now we're sending the trench out to the street. You can see I've got a couple of guys pulling on the trencher because it's so slippery. Even though that's downhill, it's still, the wheels just spin and spin, so it takes a couple of guys to help that trencher along. Up here, we've got to dig by hand because it's on such an incline that the trencher would fall over into the fence, or there could be an accident, so rather just dig this whole area by hand. Again, this is not a hard job. It's a muddy job because it rained so hard here in Charlotte yesterday. A couple inches of rain, flash flood and all that stuff. But really a simple job. And I think that the homeowner could do this if he had a helper in probably a day and a half. We'll probably finish this today. You can see our trench over here. We're coming along looking good. All the way through to the other side. We'll come right down through here. We'll pull off this asphalt, connect that trench. You see the trench over here. Okay, so we come right down. The bulk of our trench done. You can see it already filled up with water. We're going to hook up this downspout as well over here. It'll come down into our trench. Comes around the corner here. There's a gas line that we had to cross over, and a couple of little feeds out to pick up sections of the yard. Another one here. Main line comes around this patio. Kind of muddy here, so hang in there. You can see we've got already got a flow of water coming through here. Comes all the way out. Last little section to connect between that fence and the driveway, and then it'll turn and go all the way out to the street. Put another feed in here coming from the garage side. We're going to put gravel perforated pipe here along the garage, and that'll come down. You can see the water flowing already. It just pours down through there, so it's going to work really good. Pretty wet out here to be digging. Here on the back side, same thing. Gravel perforated pipe comes around, pick up the downspout, turns, and it runs all the way out. So underneath of the asphalt drive, or even a concrete drive, we like to run, solid PVC. So we've got an SDR 35, and then we've got, regular scheduled PVC. You can see we adapted that to the corrugated. Line comes from all the way around there on the other side of the house, as well as the garage. Comes all the way down through. Now we're using some of the gravel that we used the pick to take out to backfill. We'll clean all this up, cover it all up. You can see we still got a lot to cover here. And we'll wash off this sidewalk, pour some concrete, and we're done. And so finally, you're just gonna pour your concrete back. Just mix it, just a ready mix. Mix it in your wheelbarrow, have a hoe or a shovel, and just push it back onto your trench. Like I said, I found that cold patch doesn't work, and here's an example. You see the mound that they made, and you can see how it's already got water underneath of it, and when it freezes, it just pops off of there. Same thing happens here, and so I just prefer to put some concrete back. We'll just do a little finish on it, and they can drive over it forever. Now go over there. Let's put the rest of it over there. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.